It would probably embarrass Gregory Peck to call him a superstar in motion pictures, but that's what he is. He's done so many great films, the Academy Award performance in To Kill a Mockingbird, countless film classics, Gentleman's Agreement, The Yearling, Roman Holiday, The Guns of Navarone, and it's a great pleasure to have him with us tonight. Would you welcome Mr. Gregory Peck? Oh, it's a great kick to have you here.
We're not too well acquainted.
No, we see each other occasionally at various functions, but we...
A group
type of thing.
Yeah. But you remember a little transaction that you and I had one time?
I think you're referring to a small rental?
Yes, well, you had this house in Las Vegas, which
that's right.
you used while you were performing there. And we didn't meet, but we had a little conversation on the phone. And I was going there to make a movie, and it was the first time I was ever in Las Vegas in my life. I was going to make a movie in the desert outside Western. So we made this little arrangement, and the house was fine. And for the first week, we filmed during the daytime, and but at night, since it was our first time there, we went to every show there was, and we gambled and carried on. And then after a week, I guess we got to be Las Vegans, because that wore off, and we stayed home and barbecued the steak and did what normal people do. But if you remember, you had 3 slot machines in the bar.
That is true.
And in case anybody should misunderstand, wait till the end of the little story. And I got to playing those things, and
they're all working slot machines.
I got to losing money in them. And I was determined I was going to beat these Carson machines before I got out of there. So after a month, I'd put, several $100 in. And I said, it is, don't you think it's a little tacky of Johnny to have these machines?
Now they're tacky all of a sudden.
So one night you called from New York,
right,
and you were marvelous. You wanted to know if we were comfortable, if everything was fine. We're happy in the house, and I said that it all was. But I said I did put $400 or $500 into these machines. And you took a long pause. You were amazed, and you said, "Didn't anybody tell you?" And I said, "Tell me what?" And you said, "Well, you just pull them out from the wall, and your money is in the tin trays, and the money all goes back to you. They're just for amusement."
That's right.
So I said,
the back, I'd taken the back off, and the money goes into this little box.
So I said, he's not so tacky. There's a lot of class.
That's a true story. I remember that. That's funny. You are not the first person that got skinned on those machines. Bob Goulet was up using the house once, and he hit the jackpot on the nickel machine, and it didn't pay off.
Called you?
And he called me and called me long distance and said, I hit the jackpot, and I got nothing out of it. So I called the Sahara Hotel where I was working at the time, and I had an armed guard take over $25, all the nickels in a bag, deliver it to him, and got a receipt. So I paid off. So those paid off pretty well over the years. Yeah. What was your first job as an actor?
Then I went to dramatic school at a place. My classmates were Tony Randall, Ephraim Zimbalist, and Eli Wallach. And I got some good training there. At the end of the 2 years, they give a public performance, and hopefully agents and producers show up, and then hopefully people will telephone. And the thing was that we all went back to the school, which was on 46th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And we would all hang around the telephone receptionist and wait for those calls that sometimes never came. But this particular morning after our show, the phone rang, and there were 30 of us hanging around. And the receptionist covered up the speaker and said, she looked at me and she said, "It's for you. It's Guthrie McClintock, and he's interested in you for a small part." And he was one of the leading producers and the husband of Catherine Cornell in the American theater. And I knew where his office was because I'd been hanging around there in everybody else's office looking for jobs. So I took off. I didn't wait to hear any more. And I ran down 4 flights of stairs. I ran half a block to 6th Avenue. I sprinted 4 blocks up to 50th Street to the RKO building. I ran into an open door of the elevator. I knew it was on the 18th floor. I shot up there, ran down the corridor, and Mr. McClintock's office door was open. And I ran in, skidded to a stop in front of his desk, and he was still talking to her. And when he saw me, he slid right off of his chair. And he didn't stop laughing for about 4 minutes. And when he sat on the floor, and he said, he's here. and when he recovered, he said, "You've got a job."
That's the way you get an acting job. Get in the office quick. That's fun. You have a lovely wife, Veronique. We've met several times, my wife, Joanna and I. She was did she do an interview with you when you first met? She was a journalist, I know.
She was. She was a top reporter for the biggest Paris daily, the Francois. And I went through there, and I had a luncheon appointment with her. We did an interview, and I went off to Rome to make a movie, and I was struck by what a bright and a beautiful girl she was. And then I was also impressed with the article. Someone sent it to me in Rome, and my French isn't all that good, but I could make it out, and I had somebody help me, and it was a clever, amusing, factual piece, and she'd done it without taking any notes. So I was impressed, and 6 months later I was back in Paris, and I was a single for about 20 minutes there at the time. And I thought it would not be a bad idea to call this bright and beautiful young lady. So I called her at the newspaper. And I had to venture into my rudimentary French. I said, "Mademoiselle Passani, c'est Monsieur Gregory Peck." I said to whomever had the phone, and all of a sudden, all the typewriters stopped, dead silence, and I heard over the loudspeaking system, "Mademoiselle Passani, c'est Monsieur Gregory Peck pour vous," which is Gregory Peck for you. And she came to the phone, dead silence. I knew that there were maybe 80 people listening to every word, and I knew that she was already embarrassed. So I tried to make it quick. I said, "Look, you remember me?" Well, got off to a clever opening that way. She said, "Of course I remember you." And I said, "Well, I know that the whole office is listening, so I'll make it short. Would you have lunch with me, maybe at Auteuil, the racetrack? And we'll see the races, and we'll have a nice afternoon." Not a sound. And I said, "Are you still there?" She said, "Yes, I'm here." And I said, "Well, I'll repeat the offer." So I did, and nothing. And I said, I didn't think it was such a bad idea, but I'll try it one more time. So I did. And I said, "Last chance." And she finally said, "All right." So we went. We had a wonderful afternoon. One thing led to another. And now we've been married for 20 years. But you get applause?
You get applause for that, yes.
But
I've never had applause like that.
Well, a few months later, I was courting her, as the saying goes, and I said one day, "What took you so long to make up your mind? Did you have a steady fellow, or did you have a big assignment that afternoon, or what?" She said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I had an assignment, which was to interview Albert Schweitzer at the apartment of Jean-Paul Sartre, and I skipped it and went out with you." So I had to marry her.
Schweitzer and Sartre. It's the only decent thing you could have done.
Well, sometimes people say to Veronique, "Don't you regret giving up a very promising career to marry Greg?" And she said, "No. If I'd gone to see Schweitzer, I might be a widow in Africa today."
That's a wonderful, wonderful story. Hey, it's so nice of you to come here tonight. I know you don't do much television, and I thank you. I'm glad that the picture seems to be a big hit for you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming tonight, and give my best to your lovely Veronique, will you?
They're right off stage.
Okay.
I'll give it to them right away.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.